only hiring them because of certain color, their skin, or their sexuality, or whatever, and you're not getting the best people, well, that has a result. Was that result here?
Right.
I don't know, and I think we're going to find that out. But I would venture to guess, maybe.
And I think it also has to do with, again, you put in all the factors. It was a recipe that was probably made for a disaster like this. Is you have that small condensed area, an airport they considered closing after 9/11 because it was too close to D.C.
Yeah,
but they kept it open, and now it's probably one of the busiest in the country. And you've got all that activity constantly going on. Something is bound to happen. And then you add into it the military stuff that's flying around that area. There's too much going on in that small area. And like you said, because you've flown out of there a ton of times, and you've seen it firsthand.
Look out the window. I mean, you just look out the window when you're taking off, and you can't even believe the amount of activity that you see. And the military, they train over there.
Yeah.
Like this was a training mission.
This was a training thing.
But this is one of dozens of training missions going on all day.
Yeah.
And the thing that surprises me is all that's going on literally across the river from the Capitol and the White House. Right. Across the river. And you're talking about a mile and a half. You're not talking about a long distance.
Yeah, exactly.
Look who just came on here.
Wow,
look what happened here.
Wow, look, his flight just got in.
Holy cow.
Did you say you saw an early morning tweet of something you couldn't believe that somebody put out?
Yes.
Bakari Sellers from CNN had something up within 40 minutes of them starting to pull dead bodies out of the water. He had an article. There was another guy, Aaron Rupert, also had something up within like 40 minutes of this happening that it was Trump's fault. Never mind the next morning.
Absolutely sick people.
The worst kind of people ever. All right, I'm here live from Studio 6B, 13 past the hour.
And he's got a coffee.
I was here in a second when we get back. Son on the road, and it was their senior night, so we got there and it's like we had to sit through their senior night.
Oh yeah.
And it's like they have like 9 seniors, and the coach is like, oh,
don't you know you don't care about those kids, just your kids? I mean, don't they understand that?
They did a nice job, but man,
they got to do a paragraph on each
game
one.
didn't get started till late.
Yeah, well,
so that's why
it's senior year, man.
Yeah, 15-2 now this team is.
Wow,
we're making a run for the county championship.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yep. Biggest game of the year on Saturday.
They used to call me World B. Buta, when I was a basketball player. Had a big outside shot.
Did you play for the Globetrotters?
Before the 3-point line. Yeah. I played for the Globetrotters. I think I stood out.
That way you always won?
Oh, man. What are those, the Washington Generals?
Yep.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, man.
The Patsies.
So great.
YouTube should be working now. We did have a problem with it. Those of you asking, it should be on now. I think I just fixed it.
Wow. Okay, let me take a peek there. Yeah, looks like it's working. Good stuff. Crazy day, huh, today? The amount of activity today with just...
Oh, yeah, then you got the confirmation hearings going on.
I think I streamed for 6 hours this morning.
Wow.
Yep.
And it was fascinating stuff. I mean, the retorts and the battles going on. Oh, man. Just, I love all the candidates because of the way they're handling themselves.
Yeah, they're fighting back.
And they're not just, they are fighting back, but they're going. They're not, holding back.
Yeah.
And it is entertaining to watch.
No, Paulie's not making it tonight. He had a long day. Thought he could be here tonight, but no. No Paulie, no Slick. Slick's got an event.
Guy's got some business.
So, that's the story, Morning Glory.
I got here early. Got myself a pizza. Got ready.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah. I'm a professional.
Pizza Thursday for Vin? Is that it?
I just heard, laughing from the control room.
Yes.
Were you laughing?
What does kid from the UFC do that everybody's talking about Dana White?
I don't know. Haven't seen it.
Something. All right, it's 17 past the hour, live from Studio 6B on a Thursday night, Real America's Voice, and of course along the airways of 103.9 LI News Radio. Glad you're in, everybody. Rick Delgado's got the news. Vinnie Mac's got some news as well. Slick's off tonight. He's got an event. Paulie's off tonight. He's going to try to get here, but he's had a long day on the job, so he's not going to make it. My son had a basketball game tonight, so I was on the road, and of course we now moved to 15-2.
Ooh.
Making a run for the county championship here on Long Island here in the next coming weeks. So we'll see what happens. Three more regular season games, then playoffs, and we'll see how deep we can go in the playoffs to the county championship. But they're a good team.
Were you a basketball player in your day? Yeah.
Yeah, not as good as he is though.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So, Delgado, how are you?
I am good.
You guys talked about these
horrific. Yeah, we talked about the plane crash, and actually, it's more the reactions to the plane crash.
Anybody surprised by Trump today?
I talked to Rick about this just before we got on air and on air. He had every right to say what he said. I just wish he would have waited perhaps a day or 2 days.
But he has all the information.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we always complain you got to wait till you get the information. He has everything.
He has the information.
I'm sure he's got everything that's there to be had.
So it's hard to be critical of someone who's attacked the second there's a horrific event all the way into the morning. He finally gets to talk about it because he has all the information, and he goes back, hitting back. Now, I wasn't crazy about any of it happening. Can we just listen and mourn that 67 people just got killed?
Yeah.
But they started the fire right as soon as this happened. So. That was my impression. At first, I was annoyed, and then I was like, what? He had every right to do what he did.
He went right after, obviously, the DEI stuff, the hires, and the competence of the people involved. And I hear what Vin is saying, but when you watch it over and over and you think about it and you've listened to, I've listened to since last night, and we pretty much broke this last night. It happened as we were on the air.
Yep, I heard.
I can't imagine anybody reported it quicker than we did. I saw it a minute after it was posted. Between last night and tonight, I've heard numerous pilots, whether it was military pilots, regular pilots, commercial pilots, private pilot, all kinds of planes, all kinds of pilots say, I'm at a loss for words to describe what we saw. This is just not something that we could ever imagine happening in all of our years.
Yeah.
Why did this, even if they're talking about the infrared night vision goggles or infrared goggles, whatever they possibly were wearing, which obviously could make the skies look a little different, whether they acknowledged the wrong plane I've been hearing about when they said, do you see them? And they said, yeah, and they acknowledged that they saw something, but maybe it was the wrong plane. It's just beyond any ability to understand how he could, and we watched it last night I had my cursor going, okay, here it is.
Yeah.
He just comes across, right? So when Trump started to go into, this should never have happened, and how can this, when you watch it, it's hard not to agree. How does this happen?
Yeah, 100%.
The guy came in real time watching it, what's it, 10, 12 seconds?
Yeah.
From the left of the screen all the way just in. The plane is on what everybody says is the normal alternative runway flight path. The traffic control has them at the exact same height. They've got to clearly see that one's coming from the left and one guy's coming in, and it's going to tee at some point.
It's just a heartbreaking visual, though.
Yeah.
It's just brutal.
It's beyond heartbreaking. And I think Rick was mentioning before, the families haven't even been really notified.
I know, just devastated.
We're hoping there are survivors. It's a tragedy of epic proportions, especially with absolutely no survivors. And all this chatter, this talk, all this stuff going on, just calm down. this is just one of the saddest things I've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, but then they can't calm down because Orange Man Bad is back, and they've got to blame him. They got to find anything they can to attach him.
I mean, I couldn't believe how fast some of these ghouls put up this stuff. Like, Bakari Sellers today, I believe. Go ahead, Rick. Whatever you're going to say.
I was going to say,
pull this up.
But I was glad that when President Trump did make a statement, and we do have it here if you want to play it.
Yeah.
He brought receipts, and I don't know if the media was ready for this because he lays the blame directly at the hands or at the feet of Pete Buttigieg and the FAA because of their hiring practices and what they're doing. And like I said, he brought receipts. It's cut number. I believe it's, let's see. Yes, it's cut number 13. It's a little bit long, but it's worth hearing because he actually reads a little bit from these news articles that are well over a year old. Check this out, cut 13.
I do want to point out that various articles that appeared prior to my entering office, and here's one. The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing. And then it says FAA says people with severe disabilities are most underrepresented segment of the workforce, and they want them in, and they can be air traffic controllers. I don't think
people
so.
With mental issues should be underrepresented.
On January 14th, so that was a week before I entered office. They put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program. Then another article, the Federal Aviation Administration, this was before I got to office, recently, second term. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. Can you imagine? These are people that are, actually their lives are shortened because of the stress that they have. Brilliant people have to be in those positions.
Yeah. And it's amazing. Like he points out, one of the most stressful jobs in the world. But let's find people with mental issues and disabilities. Let's get them in here and let them have at it because that'll make things safe.
As we just, our hearts go out for everybody who was affected by this. There's those phases of grief. You've heard that before.
Yeah.
There'll be a period of time where, these families just are uprooted here and they have to deal with this thing. But there'll be a time, when there'll be some anger. Some of the things that you're talking about there, Rick, and I brought up, and other things that Damon brought up, at some point that some anger is going to come out because this was not necessary if these things are part of the cause of it.
Right.
And that's ultimately the super sad part of this. Anything that could have been avoided for this level of tragedy, you can't accept a human error here.
Yeah. It's not a problem that happened overnight. It didn't happen because of an election. It's been a long-running issue that's slowly
going back to
up.
Obama,
right.
as we mentioned.
All of a sudden, you wake up and, hey, you got stage 4 cancer. You got about a month to get your affairs in order.
Yeah.
That's where, air travel, unfortunately, seems to be in this country because, and like I said, we've seen it across the last few years. It takes forever. People are losing stuff. People can't get flights. I had one flight that we had to cancel. We had concert tickets for a show, fly in one night, fly out the next day. Oh, we can get you there tomorrow after they canceled the flight. Well, the concert's tomorrow, and I'm flying back tomorrow. So that doesn't work. So all of that is out.
Yeah.
And again, it's not something that is because of an election, because the Trump is back. It's because of problems of politicians.
And even the media at the press conferences, be a little somber. How about just be a little reflective instead of just attacking?
Yeah.
All right, 26 past the hour, live from Studio 6B. More news coming up.
see?
She just put out a couple hours ago, I represent LaGuardia Airport as well as workers for JFK. Trump gutted the Aviation Safety Committee last week. Air traffic controllers, already understaffed, got Trump's buyout this week with a 1-week ultimatum to decide. It's not DEI, it's him and Elon too.
That's just so not true. And also, what he was going after were people to show up at work. If you're a air traffic controller, you have to show up.
Yeah.
This is a job you have to be in the whatever room that is, I guess the tower,
right,
to do. It's apples and oranges, of course, confusing people. I don't even know what her constituents are, frankly.
So here's what Bakari Sellers put out. I mean, this is like, the plane went down at, I think, 8:50. This was out at like 9:20.
Oh, my God.
8 days ago, he posted.
I can't believe this.
And he posted this headline, Trump's dangerous freeze of air traffic control hiring.
Yeah, and that was repeated.
And this is how it was accepted on both sides so well that he actually had to put this out today. I deleted the post because timing matters. Politics at this point does not. I effed up. I own that. I'm very prayerful, but I'm also frustrated and upset and disturbed with where we are as a country. I recognize and I will do better. The only thing that matters is rescuing the survivors and ensuring this never happens again. So he's trying to cop out with this lame excuse.
Yeah. All of a sudden, I care, and I've got emotions, and I'm feeling sad for the people.
Yeah, and there was a bunch of them who did this last night. Just can't even describe how horrible they are.
I actually had a guy that I know very well. The first thing I saw this morning on Facebook was that exact attack from an individual, a liberal individual, going after Trump. And I sent him a note back. I'm like, hey, there's a time and a place for things. This is not the time and place.
But yeah,
give it a beat. 67 people were just killed.
Yeah, but the Bakari Sellers thing, because of a hiring freeze last week. Oh, so what you mean is that if they would have hired the guy last week instead of not hiring the guy, this wouldn't have happened because he would have been up and running and trained as an FAA-approved, air traffic controller, which takes 2 to 4 years to do.
There's no logic in that.
Right. You're saying that it wouldn't have happened because that guy, he would have sped through the process. It's like my cousin Vinny. How fast do grits cook in your kitchen as opposed to every other kitchen in the world?
Is that a magic grit?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, again, all the pilots we know now is one was a white woman, and the other two were white men. I mean, the diversity, equity, inclusion argument, even on that side, this doesn't. It's just like, stop rushing to just come up with something. All right, live from Studio 6B, 30 minutes past the hour. Real America's Voice and across the airways of 103.9 LI News Radio. Rick Delgado's here. He's got some news. Vinnie Mac's going to have some thoughts as well. Aaron and Fran holding it down. Glad you're in. So besides, obviously, this disaster, plane and helicopter, now they're also, just before we put a bow on this and move to some other news, the report that basically in the tower last night, the makeup of the people there was abnormal.
Yeah. Understaffed.
Is that
one
what it
person
is?
handling 2 planes.
That's what they were saying.
Oh, so just that's what they mean by abnormal, just understaffed?
There should have been 2 people, one handling the helicopter, the other handling the plane. That's from what I saw in the reporting, that's what's normal. And this one person was handling both. And, it's a tough enough job as it is.
Christina Wong said, I spoke to someone who served in the same unit as that Army Black Hawk crew, knew them personally, and flew those routes. He made the following points to me. One, that it was a training flight, and that's not unusual at all. Those flights are flown every day. Number 2, the co-pilot was going through her annual evaluation for night flying. Night vision goggles can magnify light, making it easier to confuse aircraft lights with ground lights. Number 3, runway 33, where air traffic control told the passenger jet to land, is rarely used. This person said in his 4 years, he saw it being used only about 10 times. It's a much shorter runway than the main one that's used, which is runway 1. Number 4, the Black Hawk appeared to confuse the passenger jet with another plane landing at runway 1, which is why the pilot in command confirmed seeing the CRJ and requesting visual separation, or essentially saying he would avoid it. The CRJ was circling to land and making a left turn at the time. The Black Hawk was in his blind spot. The crew was experienced, he said. The instructor pilot had just under 1,000 flying hours. He was a former Navy pilot. The co-pilot had around 500 hours. And the crew chief, who served on multiple combat tours, around 1,000 hours. They flew these same routes for the last 3 years. 7, it was not unusual to have 3 crew members on a Black Hawk. There are only 4 for certain mission sets. Where the crew chief saw the CRJ would have depended on which side he was sitting on. It was a dark night, no moon. Air traffic control could have told the Black Hawk to hold north or diverted it. Potential changes could be to change the route, the altitude, or hours during heavy air traffic. All of these things seem to him, as he said to me, made for the perfect storm.
Yeah. Sounds like that's simply what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I was listening to Dan Bongino on the way in, and he said he played a clip from some military guy who said sometimes when you're doing these exercises, they call it mission focus. So you're focused on one direction. You're not really looking around. And plus with helicopters, especially that one, it's not made to look up. So you've got limited vision up here. And with airplanes, you have limited vision down because they're seated up and their windows are up high. So those things could have been factors. He's not sure, but he brought that up because he says that's been reported before in some of these situations where some of these pilots experience this mission focus where they're so focused on what they see in front of them, they're not catching the peripheral, which is already tough to see because of the way it's built. I
mean, the reports during the Biden administration and under Buttigieg specifically were between May and November of 24, just 24. The FAA recorded 1,115 runway incursions. Over 180 operational incidents were recorded that could be traced back to air traffic controllers' decisions. So I think when you get to the heart of what President Trump is talking about, I heard him multiple times today say, I'm not saying that some diversity, equity, inclusion hire is specific, responsible for this. What I'm saying is, if we're understaffed or we're rushing people through, we want the best trained, best competent people to be in these life or death seats where every life, every second, every decision matters. And we don't feel like right now, when you look at numbers like that, if there's 1,115 runway incursions in a 5-6 month period, and 180 operational incidents were recorded that could be traced back to the air traffic controllers, at some point you got to say, guys, we got to do better than these numbers. People's lives are on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the sad part of this entire situation where he's speaking the truth about, an overall subject, which is this DEI hiring, especially in positions which are life and death type of positions. And he's speaking the truth, but it's hard to even contemplate a conversation, on anything but just people who just got killed, even though he's making those points. I just say, you know what, let's just wait a couple of days. Let's just get all the information on everything and then, then do whatever you want to do. But let's just give it a beat. Everybody. Yeah.
Some other breaking news tonight. U.S. Central Command forces have conducted a precision airstrike in northwest Syria, targeting and killing Mohammed Salah al-Zabir, a senior operative in the terrorist organization Haras al-Din, HAD, an al-Qaeda affiliate. This airstrike is part of CENTCOM's ongoing commitment, along with partners in the region, to disrupt and degrade efforts of terrorists to plan, organize, and conduct attacks against civilians and military personnel from the U.S., our allies, and our partners throughout the region and beyond. CENTCOM will continue to hunt and kill and capture terrorists and defend our homeland against groups that plot attacks against the U.S. and our allied personnel, said the general, the commander of the U.S. CENTCOM. So a precision strike tonight takes out another one of these, subhumans.
That's right. Yeah. Let's keep going after them. Keep it going. That. Yeah, and they will.
All right. So obviously the other news of the day is all the hearings we saw today. Did you watch any of them, Vin?
Oh, yeah. It was absolutely fascinating in so many ways. But, some incredible information came out from Tulsi RFK, and even Kash, just information about things that happened that we kind of knew about or maybe didn't know about, and they were presenting him as part of their defense. Trying to pinpoint each one of them, but the 20,000 National Guard members, that Trump wanted to have around for J6 and how they would turn down. He just went through exactly what happened. He was there. He was working on it. It just proved the entire narrative around January 6th, from the mayor to the mayor of D.C. to the sergeant at arms to Nancy Pelosi, of their involvement. And Tulsi Gabbard, did you hear what she said about Syria?
Oh, yeah. I have that clip.
Show that clip. That is
Before we get to that, though,
fascinating.
Let's stick with Kash for just 1 second.
Sure.
Remember something. We've talked about this for years on this show now. We've had Kash on the show. We've talked about it with him. Nancy Pelosi's involvement, Mitch McConnell's involvement, what they knew and when they knew it is still something that we deserve to know. Stephen Sund, the chief of police, John Solomon, did the premier interview with him at the time when it really mattered. And if you remember, the January 6th committee never called him to testify. Why? Because they did not want on the record the chief of the Capitol Police at the time saying that the president had offered up these troops and Kash was in the room and knew about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why he never got... Think about that. The Salem witch trials. Did not call the chief of the Capitol Police that day to testify.
Well, they knew the answer. Why would they destroy their Hollywood-produced sham of an inquiry? Yeah. Whatever the heck else they did. I thought Kash, let's talk about him for a moment, because I don't know how much the whole country knows him. You know him, and we might know him from the show. Smart guy, been around, and has an incredible background. His opening statement is with his family fleeing Uganda and Idi Amin to an immigrant Ragnar Rich's story, to all the things that he's accomplished and the people that he supported and all the very, very top secret things he's been involved in. I mean, he has an amazing story. Just put aside the fact that he's up for the head of FBI. This is a guy that's a patriot beyond patriots, an amazing, articulate guy, too. I thought he expressed himself succinctly, very clear. When he needed to go on attack, he did, but he didn't belabor it. They made him seem like this crazy guy with these posts and the things he did in interviews and all this kind of stuff. And then you see him, and he's not that guy.
No.
I got a little bit of a different feeling because I listened to Little Dick Durbin's opening statement, and he sounded like a real tough guy.
Yeah.
And I was saying as I was streaming it, I can't wait for Kash 7 minutes with this guy. He's going to pummel him. And of course, when it got to Durbin and it got to all the other Democrats, all of a sudden, all they really wanted to do was pontificate for 5 of the 7 minutes. Durbin, I think, asked him in the first round of questions, maybe 2, I think more like just 1 question.
Right.
He just spewed BS for 5 minutes on this nonsense about, your COVID medicine and your J6 choir and all that. They had their talking points. They all sounded exactly the same. They all brought up the same exact things. But I think they knew, you know what? We're not going to really be able to test this guy because intellectually he'll destroy us. He's got all the facts on what really went on. So he can destroy us there. I did not feel like they really wanted to challenge him.
Yeah.
They wanted to be, I can't say the word that I really need to say to describe what they are.
Tough guys.
One starts with a D and the other one is bags. They wanted to just be that. Like Adam Schiff, acting like he's a real tough guy. They turn around, talk to them. Yeah. This kind of nonsense for the camera.
No questions. It was one of the most frustrating things to watch. All of them, by the way. RFK, Tulsi, and Kash. They would come up and they would talk for 5 minutes, just like you said. They would attack and pontificate and ask no questions. And then when a question would come, before they were even answering the question, they were stepping on them or going through a lecture. Aren't they supposed to ask questions? Isn't the idea to ask questions and learn about the candidate and have them answer questions? They just lectured us, and this is what the left does.
Well, yeah, but if you're in for it for just because you want to do political theater, then you're not interested in that.
Right. That's right,
and that's really what they want. That's really what they're there for.
That's exactly right. It's embarrassing for the country to have, a group of prominent politicians, one
so
side,
stupid.
act like such idiots.
Be such idiots, be such morons. Yeah. Expose themselves.
It's embarrassing to all of us because these are senators.
Well, this. It's funny. It's great that you mentioned the word senator because here is Kash, cut 14, and basically wrapping up what he thinks about the attacks that are coming from the senators. Here's cut 14. Check this out.
If the best attacks on me are going to be false accusations and grotesque mischaracterizations, the only thing this body is doing is defeating the credibility of the men and women at the FBI. I stood with them here in this country. In every theater of war we have, I was on the ground in service of this nation. And any accusations leveled against me that I would somehow put political bias before the Constitution are grotesquely unfair. And I will have you reminded that I have been endorsed by over 300,000 law enforcement officers to become the next director of the FBI. Let's ask them.
Boom.
Yeah. I mean,
how about that?
It's as good as it gets.
Mr. Patel, why don't you turn around and talk to them? Talk to them. What an idiot.
Why don't you ask them how they feel about me? They had a great answer.
Exactly. All right, more to do, more news coming up live from Studio 6B on a Thursday night. Tulsi clips you have, but I have a good one that talks about Islamic terrorism. It's about 3 minutes or so.
Yeah, that's the one I have.
Okay, you have
where
that
she
one?
was talking to Mark Kelly. She was responding to Mark Kelly.
Yeah,
that's the one I have.
That was, by the way,
she nails him.
359. Is that the same one, Aaron?
I only have 150 of it.
Let's play the whole thing. You got to play the whole thing.
Okay.
I thought she was fantastic, by the way.
Do you have audio?
Great.
Kelly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
I was really oh, well, we'll see.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
It is. It's a great spot. I'm not saying it's not a great spot. I just think it's going to float out there for a while. That's their only move. Excuse me.
There is no excuse.
That was
Don't have to do that again.
Yeah, good.
Chat. What's going on, chat?
So much going on. There you go, Aaron. Take a shot.
Shot. Quiet on set. Meg says, hello out there. What's going on? I feel like I was with all of you all day. Oh, I was.
Yes. He was streaming all day. I mean, it's a 24-hour job right now.
right, 13 to the hour, live from Studio 6B on a Thursday night. Almost said Wednesday. Thursday night. The weeks go by so fast. January 30th. Rick Delgado's here doing the news. Vinnie Mac's got some news as well. Aaron and Fran holding it down. I want to say hello to everybody in the chat, on social media, wherever you're watching, Facebook, YouTube, X, Rumble, Getter, Kick, wherever you are. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, thumbs up, whatever you have on whatever platform you're watching on. Make sure you subscribe to the channels or share. We appreciate it. Comment. Any interaction with the social media is what we like, because that helps get it out there. So let's do some news. Slick's off tonight. No sports tonight. Sports, of course, always owe, and visit our friend Mike Lindell.
Yeah, we've canceled all games.
Yeah, we canceled all the games.
All canceled.
All canceled. Live from Studio 6. LFS6B is the promo code if you want to shop at Mike Lindell. But let's do some news. And here with the news is Rick Delgado. What's going on?
All right. Well, I know we want to play the Tulsi clip, which I want to get to next, but I just want to run through a couple of headlines real quick. Washington Post, believe it or not, they were reporting 24 hours before this crash on Tuesday night, before the deadly collision that we started reporting last night, there was nearly the same situation. It happened. A different regional jet coming in for a landing at the airport alerted the air traffic control tower that it had to make a second approach. The cockpit crew quickly reported the reason to the tower. A helicopter had appeared in their flight path. So this is not something that, and again, I throw it back to Vin because he's flown out of this
it's a regular
airport
thing.
A lot. And to see this, this is a regular occurrence, I guess.
I saw a lot of people talking about this today, saying I fly in and there, I see helicopters to my left and right
all the time.
Guys, some were actually posting videos that they had taken on regular, just good flights, came in, landed safely, but had taken video, and you see the helicopters flying right there.
Yeah, and they're low. The helicopters are always flying low across there, so that's that pattern seemed consistent, frankly.
Yeah, and according to this FAA report, staffing at the D.C. Air Control Tower was not normal at the time of the deadly crash. One controller was doing two jobs, it says here, helicopters and airplanes. So it's something that...
that alone is just... that alone... it's not like you're saying, okay, you take the burgers and the fries just for the drive-through win. Come on.
Yeah, and again, it's when you look at the media and the left jumping on that, well, it was, the hiring freeze last week. You don't get certified to become an air traffic controller in just days. It takes 2 to 4 years. So even if they did do a massive hiring last week, guess what? None of those people would have changed the fact that that place was staffed incorrectly.
That's just a dumb narrative.
Yeah, it's just a dumb narrative.
It's hard to even talk about it because it's just so stupid.
But you know what it is? It gives the left something to hang on to. See, it was Trump.
I've got friends doing the same thing. I'm messaging some of my buddies who are going back and forth, and this is what they're all hung up on. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, you need to get some new friends.
That's
why you got to jump in the chat.
I'll lease with an.
Oh, you want to play Tulsi? Because it's about 3 minutes or so. So here's Tulsi with
Mark Kelly, the senator out of Arizona. And he attempts to, because she's had this history of, she met with Bashar al-Assad. She's had some positive things to say, quote unquote, about Russia. Yeah. But here they are trying to make her a Russian agent.
Colonel Gabbard, when Russia was denying Assad's use of chemical weapons, they accused the U.S. of supporting terrorists. This is a line that Putin used frequently during the Syrian civil war as he supported Assad. Syrian officials made similar comments. They did it repeatedly. They did it in public. They did it at the United Nations. In 2016, you gave an interview in which you said, and this is a quote, "The U.S. is providing direct and indirect support to terrorist groups in order to overthrow the Syrian government." And in 2019, on the Democratic presidential debate stage, you said of President Trump, this is a quote, "This current president is continuing to betray us. We were supposed to be going after al-Qaeda, but over years now, not only have we not gone after al-Qaeda, our president is supporting al-Qaeda." So I'm interested to hear, what was your goal in saying these things? And did you consider, before saying them, the motives of Iran and Russia, what their motives might have been before making these claims?
Senator, as someone who enlisted in the military specifically because of al-Qaeda's terrorist attack on 9/11 and committing myself and my life to doing what I could to defeat these terrorists. It was shocking and a betrayal to me and every person who was killed on 9/11, their families and my brothers and sisters in uniform. When, as a member of Congress, I learned about President Obama's dual programs that he had begun really to overthrow the regime of Syria, and being willing to, through the CIA's Timber Sycamore program that has now been made public, of working with and arming and equipping al-Qaeda in an effort to overthrow that regime, starting yet another regime change war in the Middle East. DoD train and equip program, again, begun under President Obama, is widely been known, looked at, and studied, that ultimately resulted in over $500 million being used to train who they called moderate rebels, but were actually fighters working with and aligned with al-Qaeda's affiliate on the ground in Syria, all to move forward with their regime change and not acknowledging what was obvious at the time and what has unfortunately borne true, which was that a regime change war in Syria, much like the regime change wars in Iraq, the toppling of Gaddafi and Mubarak, while these are all dictators, would likely result in the rise of Islamist extremists like al-Qaeda taking power. I shed no tears for the fall of the Assad regime, but today we have an Islamist extremist who is now in charge of Syria, as I said, who danced on the streets to celebrate the 9/11 attack, who ruled over Idlib with an Islamist extremist governance, and who has already begun to persecute and kill and arrest religious minorities like Christians in Syria.
I understand.
Why that should be acceptable to anyone is beyond me.
It shouldn't
is
be.
certainly
and
not in our
I
interest.
I appreciate your answer, and
guess you stepped
thank
in it
you.
there, huh,
My
Senator?
concern has to do with the tendency to repeat Russian and Syrian, and even in some cases, I think we'll get into in the closed session, Iranian information, and to discount what comes from our intelligence community.
Senator, every American deserves to know that people in our own government were providing support to our sworn enemy, al-Qaeda. That should not be acceptable by anyone.
Yeah. Not only that.
That's like a mic drop. What else can you say? It's completely appropriate.
And the fact that Kelly just stood there and let her talk, he didn't try to stop her from talking, which is odd because usually when they start revealing the truth, they want to stop it because that goes against their narrative. But the fact that he's like, well, you repeated it. It was the truth. That's the problem. And that's the problem they have. That's what they have a problem with, is that she's actually repeating the truth. And how come you're not repeating what the intelligence communities are telling you? Because they're lying to us.
Yeah, exactly right.
And they're lying to the American people. And basically, our money is being taken and funded and used for funding for these terror organizations that come back. And guess what? They come back to haunt us, don't they? Thanks, Obama. Because that's exactly what she was basically saying. Thanks, Obama. This is what you created. And now they're giving her a problem because she mentioned it.
Right. I mean, what we're trying to avoid in that part of the world are Islamic extremists, who hate us and want to kill us. And then you balance that against a horrific dictator. And you're like, well, we don't want the Islamic extremists. Why are you enabling this?
Yeah.
She made a great point.
And they always fill the vacuum, right? When you take one of these guys out, they always fill the vacuum with somebody usually worse. All right, quick hour one, hour two coming up live from Studio 6B right after this. By kicking the greedy Jews out that were destroying his country, that we're turning them all into gays, unquote. That's the quote.
Oh my God.
Okay, I guess I know why.
That could be a problem.
I guess I know why Dana White was in not a great mood today. Oh
my God. That's like the headline
Dana was like, I've met a lot of stupid people in my life. He goes, this guy is the most ignorant, dumbest guy. He goes, what am I supposed to do? I mean, I guess you could fire him would be number one, but Dana's like a free speech absolutist, which is good.
It's just
But you're running a private, well, actually,
right.
Yeah, they're still private.
Right? Yeah. But it shows you the level of ignorance just out there.
Oh my God.
That someone could surmise information and come back with this ridiculous analysis.
But
crazy.
That's what free speech is about, right?
It's true.
His opinion. Okay, you don't have to like it, and it might cost him his job, but he's allowed to have it.
He's allowed to say it.
That's basically what Dana said. He said, I'm disgusted by it, and I'm sure most of you here are, but we're going to figure out what to do.
And if you're going to walk the walk, man, that's exactly it.
But he said we already let him know what we feel about
education, a little good information. Maybe that's a part of the remedy here. Not biased education like the woke left is doing in our colleges and high schools and elementary schools. Actual education. That's crazy. Is that guy a fighter? He's a fighter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he got hit in the head too many times.
He's not very. I mean, he actually debuted. People thought he had a lot of potential, but I think he's lost like 3 in a row or 4 of his last 5. It has not been good.
All right. Lashing out with stupidity.
Dana's like, this guy's the dumbest guy.
That's
Chat. What's going on?
Have you been checking out any of that bare knuckle fighting stuff? It's pretty cool.
No.
Yeah, they're getting
That's
great
Connor's
crowds.
thing, right? Isn't that Connor's thing? Doesn't he? He's a part owner in that now.
My old co, their Triller, Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
They're selling out stadiums now with this bare knuckle fighting. It's pretty wild. It is pretty wild.
Yeah.
It's violent as hell. I mean, please.
Good evening, everybody. The UFC fighter was Bryce Mitchell. That's who I'm talking about. He made a ridiculous comment on his new podcast. It was episode 1 of his podcast, by the way. Great start, kid.
That could be the only episode.
All right, 9 p.m. on the East Coast, Hour 2, Real America's Voice. And, of course, the airways of 103.9 LI News Radio.
Ooh, yeah.
It's live from Studio 6B. Glad you're in on a Thursday night. Rick Delgado's doing the news. Vinnie Mac's going to do some news as well. Aaron and Fran holding it down as always. Glad you're part of the show. If you're following us on social media, make sure you hit the like and subscribe. If you're not, choose one of our social medias and go follow us. We prefer X, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Kick, Getter, Truth. We're on all of them at LFS6B. And, of course, make sure you head over to the mothership live from studio6b.com and make sure you sign up to be a member there. It's absolutely free. And that's where you can find all of our news, all the past shows, all of the past segments, Crazy Towns, What Even Is That? And, of course, all of our merch live from studio6b.com. Delgado's going to do some news. Vinny will do some news as well. We've been speaking, obviously, in the first hour. We covered the horrific helicopter plane crash in D.C. last night, which happened while we were on the air. We broke it and started talking about it right away. I think when we first, I think when I first said, I didn't realize, obviously, what a just a disaster it was. I mean, we knew it was going to be. Looked like a huge. Just an unexplainable accident. But boy, I don't think when I first saw it and said it on the show, right. I don't think I could even have comprehended what we were in store for.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of interesting because now remembering back, we were getting ready to come back on the air in a break, and you said, "Hey, I just saw this headline. Look this up."
And the guy, and it was just the first person who posted about it, I said, "Oh, looks like there's been an incident." I don't even know when I first said it if I realized that the plane had gone down. I think I just saw that they had touched each other or there was something. And the guy said, "I'm on my way." Remember, he said, "I'm on my way to the scene."
Yeah. Well, no, I think you said it did crash into the water.
Oh, is that what I said?
Yeah, because I think that's what his post said.
A plane went into the water outside of the airport.
Right.
Okay. But boy, man, and it steamrolled quickly. Remember, we came back and it was, man.
Yeah, and then we had the video up.
By the time we left, we had the video up, and so we talked a little bit more about that. Obviously, we had a lot more information on that today. I'm sure this thing's probably going to take a good year to get probably everything that Sean Duffy. By the way, hello, welcome to the job. First day, first night, and here you go.
Yeah. First few hours.
And he was in the briefing room today with the president, with the vice president, with the Secretary of Defense. All of them, all four of them were in there today. It was going on while Kash was on, and so I missed President Trump's opening remarks because we were still watching Kash in his hearing, which we can talk about a little bit more now. But I missed the president's actual opening remarks about this in the briefing room today. So maybe we'll get into a little more of that. Obviously, Tulsi today, RFK Jr., which I saw none of, day 2, in front of the Senate and Rand Paul's committee, I believe it was today. But just to talk a little bit more about Kash Patel. Kash Patel is without a doubt, if not the most qualified, certainly the most qualified I've seen probably in my lifetime to head up the FBI. He is an absolute no-nonsense warrior. Exactly what we need there. President Trump obviously realizes that, as does everybody. I think everybody I think he's going to get overwhelming support. I don't know how many Democrats. I think he'll get some. In the full vote, I don't know about out of committee if he'll get any.
No, it's going to go
out of those losers, but
shirts and skins, as they're saying. Yeah,
but even the Republicans today on the questioning, they talked about some stuff. But what's amazing about these hearings, if you're the Democrats, you spend all this time running to your little media friends talking about, he's not for the FBI director. The FBI director. He can't do this at the FBI. He was not qualified for that. Not qualified for this. No, shouldn't do that. Shouldn't do this. And then you get the guy in front of you, and you don't ask him anything about the actual FBI and what you're going to do in the FBI. Nothing.
Nope.
Just pontificating on J6 choirs, COVID medicines. The grand jury testimony on President Trump, whether he declassified Mar-a-Lago, whether you were there and actually saw in Mar-a-Lago the documents, nothing about the FBI.
No, they don't really want to know.
Exactly.
They don't really want to know. They just want to grandstand, get their talking points out, show their constituents how tough they are. But they're not getting any information. There's a million questions this guy could have answered other than getting lectured. That's what turned me off of the whole thing. They would lecture, and then when they finally got a chance to speak, they would lay out some, just some bombs. Kash did, RFK did, and Tulsi did. I mean, they weathered those storms and then came out with their own bombs. It was great.
All right, so let's jump into some Kash Patel. As a matter of fact, here is Senator Katie Britt, cut number 5, asking Kash exactly what he plans for the FBI if he becomes the director of the FBI. Let's go to cut number 5.
And the two themes that, if I'm confirmed, that I have for the FBI are really just going back to keeping it simple. One, let good cops be cops. 100,000 drug overdoses, 100,000 rapes, 17,000 homicides. That's only with 70% of the precincts reporting in. That is violent crime exploding out of control. We've got 38,000 employees at the FBI, and as I alluded to earlier, almost a third of them work in and around the Washington, D.C. area. Well, those crimes are committed out in the rest of America. And I'm going to let good cops be cops and put handcuffs on the bad guys and put child molesters in prison and put murderers in prison and make sure CCP fentanyl doesn't kill another one of your constituents. That's track 1. Track 2, to restore the trust in the FBI. that has degraded, not by my opinion, by the Gallup poll, that only 40% of Americans have trust and faith in the FBI. It is a cataclysmic failure in leadership to get to that point that did not happen over time. And so what the FBI must do while tackling violent crime and protecting Americans' national security and our sovereignty is work with Congress, Republicans and Democrats, to expose any government corruption, provide government accountability through transparency, and get you all the documents that you are the custodians of. The FBI reports to Congress. If I am confirmed as FBI director, I will report to Congress. And I will just save you with this one caveat here about my personal experiences with the FBI. The men and women of the FBI do the most courageous work on God's green earth. I was fortunate enough to utilize FISA 702 national security measures to prevent a shopping mall from blowing up in Houston and the state capitol from being attacked in California. Courageous men and women do that work every day, and these are cases you never hear about. Instead, the only things you hear about are the baseless conspiracy theories and attacks levied at me. Well, here's something for America. You can say whatever you want about me. If I'm confirmed, bring it on. But you will not denigrate the men and women of the FBI that saved this country.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I mean,
just
he
laying
just
it out.
is so clear, this guy, you know, right there.
Yeah, exactly. He continued on. He was, of course, questioned by many of the lefties who every once in a while would let him get a word in edgewise. Here he is on removing the weaponization of law enforcement from the FBI. This is cut number 4. Here he is. Here's Kash Patel. Check this out. Cut 4.
Senator, the only way to truly remove weaponization and politicization from law enforcement is to follow the Constitution. And if you look at the FBI's website and their mission statement and their core values, each has 8. And the 8th and last core value of the mission statement on the FBI's website right now is fighting violent crime. That needs to be number 1. The 8th core value out of all core values on the FBI's website right now is rigorous obedience to the Constitution. That needs to be number 1. Reorienting these policies with an effective leadership in place to follow the law will allow us to achieve a singular standard of constitutional law enforcement. And that is the only way you remove the weaponization from politics and, from law enforcement. And that's what the sheriffs are talking about, and that's what cops are talking about.
Yeah.
That's a great point, you know?
Yeah.
Really great
It's amazing.
point.
Number
Great
8.
depth.
Adhering to the Constitution. Number 8? Really? 8. What's number 1 through 7? DEI. Let's make sure we hire enough people who look like the rest of America.
Let's try not to offend people.
Yeah,
number
exactly.
1.
Hey, how about those Christians and those grandmas showing up at abortion clinics that are offering prayers to people going to have abortions? Let's arrest them. That's 1 through 5.
Yeah, 1 through 5. The Catholics. Let's just get them wherever they are.
Exactly. And the homegrown terrorists that you might find at a school meeting.
But if you peel back what he just said is what you hear from just about everyone that Trump has nominated, and Trump himself. What you just heard is leadership. This is what leadership does. This is what it means. People throw that word around like they think some general's a leader, or just because you got a big job and you're a CEO, you're a leader. No. Leadership is about what he just said. By setting the standard of what you're about, by telling everybody, this is what we care about, this is why we're here, and these are our priorities. That is leadership. That's setting the table to it. I don't know if you guys noticed this. I certainly have. Every one of Trump's picks, every one, unqualified. You know what they all have in common? Great leadership skills.
And common sense.
Common sense and great leadership. And by the way, those two things go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to be a great leader, you have to make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So you nailed it. Common sense and great leadership.
Hey, did you see Josh Hawley tonight? He was on with Jesse Waters after the Tulsi hearing and said, I am worried that Tulsi Gabbard will not be confirmed.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Because of what I am hearing from some of my Republican colleagues.
Yeah.
Really?
That's what he told Jesse Waters tonight. And I've seen others say Tulsi's in trouble. Call your senators.
Well, then you know what to do.
That's what has to happen.
Call your senators, because we need people like that to expose. I mean, let's face it. She just exposed to the American people, hey, guess what? Your former president that everybody thought was the greatest thing since sliced bread, he created terrorist groups with your tax money that are now coming back to haunt you. But don't worry, I'm the problem.
I'm the problem. I'm the one who's unqualified because I know all of these things.
Yeah, exactly. One more clip from Kash real quick. This is him versus Amy Klobuchar talking about police testimony and about January 6th. This is cut number 3, Kash versus Amy Klobuchar, cut 3.
In March of 2024 on Joe Pack's podcast, he asked you, the Capitol Police in that fake January 6th committee, they didn't tell the truth, did they? Patel, no, not just them, many others. And lying under oath is a federal offense and they should be investigated for it. Do you believe that about the police officers?
That's a general statement and a mischaracterization of what I said. I encourage you to read the rest of the interview. This is why snippets of information are often misleading and detrimental to this committee's advice and consent process.
Well, if you consent, I would love to have 5 hours of questions and then I could read the whole transcript.
You've got 2 minutes.
Wow.
She wants 5 hours. Senator, that is your job. You knew you were going to be doing this weeks ago. Why didn't you spend time in reading that before this?
Boy, did she go into a hissy fit today, boy.
Yeah.
Just add her to the pictures of like Warren screaming and all the other ones screaming. She's the one of today. Oh my God, she like almost melted down.
I didn't see that part.
I'm melting.
13 past the hour, live from Studio 6B. More to do. Some news with Vinnie Mac coming up.
What do you think Delgado went to put his socks on the radiator again?
No, it's not that cold in here. I don't think so.
It's not cold.
Oh, he said he's freezing. I guess he's 30th Amendment. Here we come.
All right. I knew there was something happening over there. New York Islanders are up 1-0. It's a good night.
Boy, all these, I guess it was a lot of ice skaters.
Yeah, it was members of the U.S. figure skating team.
Oh, man.
Ugh.
Just devastating. A whole team, right? I think
I don't think it was the entire team, but it was a good chunk of it.
A good chunk of it.
Because they were competing, I think it was at Nationals or something like that.
Yeah, just such a non-event in a way of, getting on the airplane. We're going to do this, the Nationals here for the skating. We got this. They all get on a plane, this is great. And then boom.
You travel that much for what you do, you don't think twice about it.
Don't think twice about it. I mean,
plus, for the most part, what do we do? 110 million flights a year. We haven't had anything like this, and I mean, it is the safest way to travel.
It is. I mean, remarkably, these air traffic controllers do an unreal job. Considering, if you ever look at a map and you see all the dots across the country, I mean, it seems like there's a plane every half a mile. They're just all over the place, not to mention private planes and helicopters and all that. They do a remarkable job.
How about this? Nicole Shanahan said, the first thing my fiance said to me this morning as we woke up after watching the JFK's confirmation hearings, he looked over at me and says, I don't think you hate these Democrats enough.
Yeah. She was great. She gave another interview after you showed that clip the other day. And she's putting it out there. She is putting it out there.
Oh, was she on with Steve?
Yeah. Going after Warnock.
She should. She got that guy elected.
He's number one on her list.
I was paying attention to what he was asking too, because I was thinking, is it going to have an effect?
Oh my God! Look at this. Hey, Aaron, throw this up quick. The idiot UFC guy who made this, put it full screen. I looked quick. Look who his guest is. I almost had a heart attack.
That ain't me.
Holy cow. I looked quick. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, Delgado's been moonlighting.
I got more hair than that guy.
Is that a pair of socks on a heater in that picture? No? All right. Well, it's definitely not Delgado.
Oh my God.
It could be a cousin.
Don't forget to
Probably.
read.
I got a ton of them.
Got it.
Oh, man.
Well, it's a new day in America, new administration in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of excitement and optimism about the future, but the reality is there's a lot of work to do still, especially when it comes to fixing our broken healthcare system. The truth is that the forces that are responsible for breaking our healthcare system aren't going to simply go away. The challenges our system faces won't disappear overnight. Now more than ever, you need to be prepared. That's, of course, where the wellness company comes in. You know the wellness company. Their doctors are medical professionals that you can trust. Their line of prescription medical kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy. Whether it's the medical emergency kit, the contagion kit, the first aid kit, or the travel kit, these prescription kits contain an assortment of life-saving medications and guidebooks to assist in the proper use of the medications. From the flu to strep throat, from COVID to bird flu, from a trip to the beach or a trip overseas, the Wellness Company has a prescription kit designed to keep you and your family safe. Make America healthy again starts at home. Do your part. Protect the health of you and your family. Go to twc.health/voice, twc.health/voice today and order. That's twc.health/voice. Use promo code VOICE to save 10%. All right, 18 past the hour, live from Studio 6B. Vinnie Mac's here. Vinnie Mac, besides obviously what we've been talking about, and maybe that's what's been on your mind, but anything else been on your mind?
Oh, yeah. Lots of other things. One in particular, I'll frame it this way. Self-inflicted wounds. That's ultimately what the left is all about. Everything they have set forth over the years they've been in power, the DEI stuff we've talked about, sanctuary cities, and all these kinds of things. These are all self-inflicted wounds. I'm hearing all these stories and news, when ICE is rounding up people and these criminals, and they get someone who's not, a criminal per se, but obviously broke the law by coming here illegally. And there's a huge uproar of all of this. And they're like, how can this be possible? And then they're just going in to where these folks are, where these criminals are. And there's a couple of others there that just came in illegally that maybe didn't commit a crime outside of coming here illegally. So they're all freaking out. And I look at this and I'm like, this is a self-inflicted wound. You have sanctuary cities. You're forcing ICE, even though you don't realize this, you're forcing ICE to go into places now to go find these people, and they got all this other collateral criminals who are just illegals who came here illegally being arrested too. Why? Because the real criminals, or the actual people that have committed crimes and should be picked up first, they should be in jails and easily found by ICE and then taken and removed from this country. So your own sanctuary cities are causing the same problem that you're having. And you can point to this in just about every area. The DEI issues result in poor management and the poor running of things and problematic things. The immigration crisis, because you have these sanctuary cities, you're going to have people and families possibly separated because of your policy and your self-inflicted wounds. And it goes on and on and on. And I just find it so ironic to watch the hysteria of, well, he only came here illegally. Well, we said Trump's press secretary made it very clear, well, that's breaking the law. But putting that aside, aren't your priorities supposed to be the real criminals, the murderers, the rapists that came across? Yes, but you're hiding them. You're hiding them. You're not letting us find them. And all these other people are around them. We're going to arrest everybody. They've created that. That's the irony of all this. So that's been on my mind, these self-inflicted wounds. Another thing that's been on my mind, it's a completely different subject, but Melania Trump. She, first of all, she's amazing. She is the type of first lady that we should all high at a very, very high bar. She's not only a beautiful, wonderful woman and smart and speaks these languages and all these types of things. She's got great taste. She's very articulate. And I don't know if you saw what happened with Vogue and all this stuff. And it's not even a corny thing. It's just another symptom. They're putting Kamala Harris on the cover. They're putting Jill Biden on the cover. And now, Melania is just getting shafted again. And it's just so unfair to this woman. I was reading about this and hearing about it and listening to people talk about it. And I just felt so bad for her because she does not deserve this. Anna Wintour was at her wedding. She dressed Melania for the wedding. This is, of course, before Donald Trump became, president. And I think that came out in one of the hearings from RFK. RFK's like, hey, you all were my friends.
White House specifically. Did you realize he was in his wedding party?
Yeah.
I saw that just yesterday. That Sheldon Whitehouse, I believe it was Whitehouse, maybe it was one of the other creeps, but I think it was him, the chief creep. They went to school together, or they were roommates, and he was in his wedding party. And he sits up there now and calls them dangerous to his face.
Yeah. You're all my friends. And I guess that you could apply this to Melania, and you can apply it to a lot of people in RFK. And I connect with Donald Trump, or he nominates me, and all of a sudden I'm the worst thing and I'm evil. And it's just so telling. But it's for people like Melania, hey, these are politicians, and RFK's been around. He's a tough guy. This is a woman. She's a mother. She married this guy. All right. This is not someone who set out to have a political career, to have power, to have any of these things. She's just a very smart woman who has a lot of class and someone we should really treasure. Instead, because she's married to Donald Trump, they treat her like crap. And things like Vogue, which seem to honor the first ladies, they totally diss her. So that bothered me, and I just thought it was worth talking about because it's symptomatic of how the left rolls, and it's another self-inflicted wound because the more they outcast her, the more people are going to love her. It just seems to reverse back to those types of things every time they say or do something.
All right, very good. We'll do some more news of Vinnie Mac. Let's do some more with Rick Delgado. Well, by the way, I want to just remind everybody, as everybody's in the media specifically talking about Trump today, and he's going to talking about we didn't hire the best people and blaming Biden and blaming Obama.
How's that possible?
Let me remind you about Biden's nominee to be the head of the FAA. Ted Budd happened to talk to him. If you remember this exchange right here.
So, Mr. Washington, can you quickly tell me what airspace requires an ADS-B transponder?
Not sure I can answer that question right now.
That's okay. We'll just keep going. So that's a pretty important part. So what are the 6 types of special use airspace that protect this national security that appear on FAA charts?
Sorry, Senator, I cannot answer that question.
Okay, so what are the operational limitations of a pilot flying under basic med?
Senator, I'm not a pilot, so...
but obviously you'd oversee the Federal Aviation Administration, so any idea what those restrictions are under basic med, quickly?
Well, some of the restrictions, I think, would be high blood pressure. Some of them would be...
It's more like how many passengers per airplane, how many pounds in different categories, and what altitude you can fly under. So, and then
high blood pressure.
Amount of knots, it's under 250 knots. So it's not having anything to do with blood pressure. So can you tell me what causes an aircraft to spin or to stall?
Again, Senator, I'm not a pilot.
Okay, let's keep going. What are the 3 aircraft certifications the FAA requires as part of the manufacturing process? Quickly, please. 3 aircraft certifications.
Again, what I would say to that is that one of my first priorities would be to fully implement that Certification Act. And report.
The 3 types.
What certification he's talking about?
The Pinto, and the Santa Maria.
Okay. Yeah, that's type certificate, production certificate, and airworthiness certificate. Okay, all right. Let's just keep going and see if we can get lucky here. Can you tell me what the minimum separation distance is for landing and departing airliners during the daytime, Mr. Washington?
I don't want to guess on that, Senator.
Are you familiar with the difference between Part 107 and Part 44809 when it comes to unmanned aerial standards? Unmanned like drones. Are you familiar with the difference?
Yes.
Okay. You know the difference between those two, Part 44809 and Part 107? Do you know the difference there?
No, I cannot.
That's okay.
Let's try,
Oh, my
try and
goodness.
get lucky.
That was Biden's nominee to run the FAA.
Yes.
But we're worried about Trump's comments today.
What are those two things on the left and right of the body of an airplane? I'll give you a minute. Just think about
Starts with the letter W.
It starts with the letter W and ends with the letter G. Just work with me here. Great clip. By the way, I bet you there's a dozen clips like that.
I love the part.
Let's try and get lucky on this one.
Maybe we can get lucky here.
What's it called when the crew serves a meal on a plane? Yeah. How much did people give out, peanuts or pretzels on an aircraft? I bet if you surfed through all of Biden's confirmations, we're going to find the similar. Like Pete Buttigieg, he had no experience.
No experience.
None.
With transportation.
Zero. And,
he was a mayor of, what was it?
Willstown in Indiana,
Yeah.
I believe.
Was it Indiana?
Mm-hmm. Indiana.
He got that job because he's gay.
And Javier Becerra, he was the Secretary of Human Health Services. Not a doctor.
Not a.
No background in pharmacy.
No
background in medicine.
Don't need that.
Not even like a doctorate. No, he was a trial lawyer.
Right. Yeah. All the payoffs that the Bidens resulted in people totally, incompetent and not qualified. Trump's got a bunch of people who are actually qualified, and they're just going through hell right now. And the partisanship here is disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's always.
Someone said we have some super chats. Let me go to those.
All right, super chat.
Super chatting.
Who are you going to call
On a Thursday
super
night.
chat?
I just saw John Q.
right.
Public, I think, has one, right?
John Q. Public, $10 super chat. We the people need an executive order by President Trump acknowledging the Second Amendment preemption and the supremacy clause, national constitutional carry. I believe I saw some that he was working on that. Child of the King, 2025. Don't forget, Damon, they needed him cash to say Biden won. LOL, those poor nitwits. There was also another super chat by John Q. Public. Yes, we got to that one.
Yes.
Jargus Hunter, 2 super chats, $5 each. Delgado wouldn't have mattered if she read the whole transcript. They just picked the parts out of context to get a gotcha clip.
That's right.
So
That's
sick
true.
of these people. Also, who the hell is Adam Schiff to try and lecture someone on lying, of all things? These people are masters of throwing stones at glass houses.
Very true.
Very, very true.
Very interesting, but stupid.
Very, very true. Minutes past the hour. Speak up, son. 30 minutes past the hour, live from Studio 6B.
Is that Rick Delgado?
On a
Next to us?
Thursday. Yeah, that's him.
I had no idea he was here.
That's me.
Rick Delgado.
I don't say a word.
Oh my God.
My goodness.
On a Thursday night, Real America's Voice, and of course, along the airways of 103.9 LI News Radio, Long Island, New York. Glad you're in, everybody. Delgado's doing news. Vinnie Mac's got some thoughts as well. Aaron and
Yes.
Fran holding it down as always. I do want to get back to what's going on in Florida. We've been talking about that a lot this week, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. Delgado's got something he wants to cover. What else is going on in the news?
All right. Well, we saw Tulsi Gabbard. We played probably the best clip from her today.
What do you think about Josh Hawley saying that she could be in trouble? I mean, we know
I don't know.
she can only lose 3, right? And then have JD be the tying again like he was for Hegseth. So you got to think it's going to be who? Sue? It's going to be Collins, Murkowski, McConnell.
Right.
Maybe Lindsey Graham on her. Who else could be wishy-washy on Tulsi?
I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see some of the comments because today was only day. Is there a day 2 for her tomorrow? Is that it too?
I don't think so.
Because RFK had a day 2 today, And here was the one thing that really got my attention from this. I'm sure there were a lot more. I just didn't see it. Unfortunately, here's cut number 8. Here's RFK when he's confronted with a letter of, people that said he shouldn't be confirmed.
Oh, yeah.
Check out how he handles this. Cut number 8. Check it out for yourself. RFK Jr.
75 Nobel Prize winners in science have said very clearly that you should not be confirmed, that it would be dangerous for you to have.
And you should look at their conflicts, Senator. You should look at their conflicts of those individuals.
Well, 75
and
Nobel.
You should look at who financed that letter.
Exactly.
That's exactly right.
By the way, Ed Markey is the one I played yesterday, that clip of a younger RFK Jr. It was his committee.
Mm-hmm.
And he called them into that committee because he said at the time that he was a expert and he was professional and he was well knowledge and brought him in. And I played that old clip yesterday. That's the same guy right there.
Yeah.
Now says, "Oh, you're dangerous."
Well, it's the same. It's the same thing that the Biden administration did all the last 4 years, right? And Democrats. Well, we have these 51 intelligence agencies. Oh, we have these 17 scientific Nobel laureates. Now he's got 75 Nobel Prize-winning laureates signing a letter that he shouldn't be confirmed.
Yeah.
Like he said, follow the money. Who's financing them? Who's actually behind, what they're tied to, and that'll tell you all you need to know about why they signed that letter.
It's all
because
pretty
it's going to disrupt the money flow. And speaking of RFK and his former VP, Nicole Shanahan, we played that clip a couple days ago, where she basically she came out and said, "You come for him, I'm coming for you." It's basically the way she laid it out there. Well, she was back today with some more statements. Here she is on War Room with Steve Bannon. Cut number 1. Here she is talking about basically the reaction and why I guess it's gotten such a reaction, because basically she's a mom and moms are pissed. Cut number 1. Check this out.
We're pissed. The moms are pissed. I'm pissed. And watching the line of questioning that Bobby has had to endure the last 2 days from individuals that have received millions upon millions of dollars direct from the pharmaceutical companies has been infuriating. And you know what? The thing is the MAGA Maha movement is so big. I really do think it's the largest movement on the planet right now. And we're all watching this. Do you think any Senate confirmation hearing has had this many live viewers? Certainly not as many that are this deeply vested. And that's what this is all about right now. I didn't expect that video to go as viral as it did. And I've heard from so many people who are like, "We're ready to go. Can you please primary my senator?" They're just fed up. We're all fed up, and it's time to clean out this mess.
Yeah, right. and she wasn't done. She had more to say. Here's another cut number 2 of her talking to Steve Bannon on War Room today, basically telling these senators, like she said the other night, we're coming after them. Cut number 2.
So when I see that viciousness up there on Capitol Hill, these people are acting. And I think that at this point, the Democratic Party chooses its candidates based on who can act, not who gives a damn, who can tell like any bit of their lived experience through any bit of integrity, because they're so detached and they're so removed and the people feel it. Many of the senators we've heard from that were the harshest barely won their seats. I mean, Cortez Masto, she won her seat by less than 1%. I mean, these things are like these seats are low-hanging fruit, and we're coming after every single one of them.
There you have it.
I just so love this.
Yeah, backing up the earlier quote from her video that went viral the other day of saying, you know what, we are coming after them, and she's right. She's making a lot of good points.
And by the way, they didn't care. She specifically talked about Warnock funding that and Ossoff.
Yep.
Neither one of them took any consideration to that in their questioning of Bobby Kennedy Jr.
Oh, as a matter of fact, Raphael Warnock has already announced he's a no on Kennedy.
Absolutely doesn't care.
So I guess maybe that's all he wanted was it's time to retire anyway, so get me out of here.
Hey, get rid of him. We'll get more seats.
By the way, I want to thank Barb on X. Well, many people on X. We get so many messages on X, but I just happened to see hers as I was going through. She said, hey, LFS6B, please note this post. Here's a list of rhinos reportedly against Tulsi Gabbard as of today for director of NIH. Lindsey Graham, Susan Collins, Mitch McConnell, Lisa Murkowski, so the usual suspects. Then add John Cornyn, Mike Rounds, John Thune, Tom Tillis, and John Curtis from Utah. So right now, that is your list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Republicans who are supposedly, according to this, could be off a couple, but right now, 9 Republicans who are, I guess, not a definitive yes so far on Tulsi.
The darling of the Democratic Party, Tulsi Gabbard.
Right.
The rising star of the Democratic Party, Tulsi Gabbard. Now you got these Republicans not wanting to support her and every Democrat not wanting to support her. Crazy.
It's amazing what happens when you tell the truth.
Yeah.
And the lying scumbags who are lining their pockets with our money don't like it.
Not only lining their pockets, but spending our money in some of the most embarrassing ways.
Yeah, and disgusting ways.
Yeah.
So. All right, Dame, that's all I got for now. I know you've got some stuff.
All right, so we talked a little bit about what's going on in Florida this week with the legislature. And if you're a big supporter of what the governor has done in Florida, and a lot of people have moved to Florida from all these states, this week should be a wake-up call. Because the Democrat Party, Florida is where the Democrat Party has gone to basically vanish, die, gone, overrun. And this week should be a wake-up call that once the governor's gone, that may not be the case. And if we want Florida to go back to where it was in the early 2000s, where it was purplish, bluish, and the swingiest of swing states, think of what happened there in 2000. Yeah. People like Byron Donalds, who I saw on Pat Bet-David's show, at least acknowledged that he hates the idea of immigration being taken out of the governor's authority and given to the agriculture commissioner, whatever the hell they're trying to do there. But I think he probably needs to stand up and be a little... I think anybody thinking about running for governor in Florida, this might be a time to jump in with both feet here. Because the state legislature, now the governor is going to veto this bill. And what we can only hope is that upon veto it, there's maybe some who rethink their position of supporting it the first time around so that they can't override the governor's veto and are forced to put some teeth into this thing. But over at the Blaze today, we're reminded of this party that we're all a part of. Like a dog to vomit, weak Republicans sabotage their own party once again. Trump's fighting. DeSantis is winning. RFK is going to help. The GOP establishment just refuses to get on board. We are not a nation of laws, and we've never been. We are a nation of political will, and we will always be one. Take Florida, for example. What is happening in the Sunshine State this week is a reminder that the Bible is always correct. The dog returns to its own vomit, which is another way of saying no one rises above his own worldview. No one. If you're a junkie, you'll continue to be one until your worldview has changed. If you're an abuser, you'll continue to be one until your worldview has changed. If you're a simp, you'll continue to be one until your worldview has changed. If you're a resident of Kovistan, you will continue to hate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. until your worldview has changed. If there was ever a place where people instinctively did the right thing because it benefited them without necessarily believing in the underlying principles, it would be Ron DeSantis' Florida. He rejected every GOP consultant's playbook to transform Florida from a place that narrowly gave him a victory over a guy who snorted cocaine off a gay hooker's behind to a place that awarded him a decisive 20-point landslide 4 years later. And incidentally, his victory contributed to the near total collapse of the Florida Democratic Party. So obviously, a lot of GOP consultants should probably never work again there. Oh, look, vomit. The Florida Republican legislature is eating it up in the name of protecting illegal immigration in Florida by trying to give the state agriculture commissioner more power to police the matter when the governor possesses, thus trying to turn DeSantis into a lame duck as we speak. Take notes, my friend, because I promise you this: if the GOP loses the 2026 midterms by pulling its punches and channeling the spirit of Mitt Romney, the same type of Republicans in Washington will try to undermine Donald Trump's presidency then, too. They resent that both Trump and DeSantis forced them to take actions that they had long avoided. And if they can't accept victory in Florida, seize the momentum, and ride the wave to success elsewhere, they won't do it anywhere else. There is no real conservative movement, only strong men wielding power. Which brings us back to RFK Jr. in the opposition to his nomination as Secretary of Health and Human Services, led by evangelic figures like Mike Pence. The GOP's problems stem largely from the same issues that plague the church. In this case, Republicans with weak pro-life records use RFK's stance on baby killing as a smokescreen to excuse their broader failures. Like Francis Collins, for example, a so-called Christian who rubber-stamped Anthony Fauci's disastrous policies that upended American life and pushed the poisonous jab in your arm. Collins has never expressed a shred of remorse. Meanwhile, within taking office, Trump reinstated 8,000 service members to full rank and back pay after they were purged from the military, cracked down on transgender ideology in hospitals, women's sports, and ramped up deportations of rapists, drug offenders, traffickers who prey on children. The Republican Party needs to stop eating their own vomit.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear. Take yes for an answer and let RFK go to work.
Yep.
All right, we'll wrap it up for a Thursday night when we get back right after this.
It's going to be interesting in Florida when DeSantis vetoes that and it goes back, because now when you brought this up last time, you know, it was sort of a new story. Mm-hmm. It's everywhere now. It's getting a ton of coverage, and hopefully it's putting a lot of political pressure.
It's crazy. Republicans better look at this as a wake-up call. Because if you want Florida to stay like it is right now, which is there's barely any elected Democrats in the whole damn statewide.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to change if this is what the legislature, you know, you have to wonder if this is the legislature that's been in place, and you think about all the wins that we have in Florida, it may be in no short term due to any of these people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree. I feel like we always say this. The Republicans are eating their own. Like somewhere, in some part of the country, this is what happens. It just regularly happens. I don't know. Do people pretend to be Republicans and then run and then do stuff? It's just hard to figure out why this party just cannot fully unite. If Tulsi Gabbard was appointed by Biden, she'd win every Democratic vote.
Right.
Not even a blink.
And probably most Republican.
And she'd win some Republican votes. But my point is, on the Democratic side, she wouldn't lose any. Yeah. She'd get every one of them. And if they had control of the Congress, then she'd get in. But the Republicans just, they're not willing to play that. And they have to now. We have to settle this up. Crazy, but true. Even so, I thought Tulsi was great. They've all been great. They've all done justice each for themselves. And if she doesn't get in, Trump will appoint her to something meaningful.
John Cornyn tonight on Twitter, Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2 provides that the president shall appoint officers with the advise and consent of the Senate. This guy is the worst of the worst, too. We have so many of them.
Who wrote that?
Cornyn, basically saying, hey, it's our job to decide, right. So don't get on me for if I don't support her, because I don't think this is what,
They're already covering for themselves, right? Already trying to cover their tracks. Because Trump's just going to lambast
Cornyn, Tillis, Graham, Murkowski, Collins, McConnell. Oh, my God. It just never ends. All right, 13 to the hour, live from Studio 6B on a Thursday night. God, why does I want to say Wednesday? Thursday night, January 30th. Glad you're in Real America's Voice in the airways of 103.9 LI News Radio. Glad you're in. Let's do a little more news with both Vinnie Mac and Rick Delgado, and then we'll wrap it up here for a Thursday. Vinnie Mac, what's on your mind?
Yeah, two things. One, just I want to put a pin in this Kash Patel thing, but do you guys recall the Marsha Blackburn conversation about the Epstein files and how she's been trying to get them published, and she was asking for his cooperation on it. And it just kind of seemed like her line of questioning was, why are the Democrats so afraid of you? And he's like, I don't know, but you have to ask them. And then this whole Epstein thing came up. It's interesting. Like, what this Epstein thing shouldn't be coming up, but it's clear there are so many Democrats, and I think some Republicans that, are in the middle of this. It just caught my eye. But this is what has been bothering me ever since Trump came out with that spending freeze thing that he did, that executive order that's been completely misinterpreted. First off, any executive coming in to take over a new company does this. I think we may have talked about that before on the show. You want to stop spending, see what you're spending money on, reevaluate things, and go. And we've all sort of heard about the old Pentagon $1 million hammer, $1,000 hammer, $15,000 hammer. Yeah, that's appalling, right? We're all appalled by that. But it's shocking to me that a couple of things that they found, particularly this $50 million condoms thing with Hamas, and then $15 million for condoms for the Taliban. I mean, I don't know. Does Hamas have an OnlyFans page? Why we have to send condoms to Hamas? And it's bigger than sort of a joke where it's like, there's $50 million for condoms. What a waste of money. It's a complete joke, but it's bigger than a joke because this is something that's real. It's something that's serious. Somebody thought of this and thought it was a good idea and got $65 million to go send. And that's just scratching the surface. If you look at a bunch of the other things, there was close to $200 million worth of things that were just absolute nonsense. And then you peel everything back and you realize, because it's thrown in your face and it slaps you in your face, how irresponsible the government is in general. And I blame Republicans and Democrats for this, how irresponsible they are with our money. Everybody's harping on this deficit, and the deficit's horrible. And there are reasons why the deficit's high, and we know some of the bigger spending items. But you go through all of these things, you probably can knock 20% off just for all this nonsense. And that is what Trump is doing. What people really don't understand with this spending freeze thing is that's what it's about. Don't send anything out. And I've done this myself. I've taken over companies, and I've said from this moment, not a penny goes out till I know where it's going. And you go figure it out. This is what Trump is doing. This is the prudent thing to do. Yet he's lambasted for it. But when you see that some of that money's going for all sorts of dumb stuff, but condoms for our enemies. Think about the fact they're making bombs out of them. Condoms for our enemies. It's as insulting as it can get, and it should wake every American up that there's no fiduciary responsibility from any of these people in government, because this is monopoly money to them. They really don't care. This is not your money. It's not my money. It's just money. that they can go spend an unlimited amount. You know, I heard Trump, I don't know if you guys picked up on this, and I was so glad Trump said this about the IRS, possibly even abolishing it. And I think you've heard me talk about this. I have been a huge proponent of the flat tax to deal with our income. Everybody on the same playing field. Half the country doesn't pay taxes. It's actually 60% now. When Mitt Romney said that when he was running against Obama, it was 40 some odd percent. It's 60% of the country do not pay any taxes. Yet the billionaires don't pay their fair share, which is a bunch of garbage. So he's thinking about the IRS. And you put all this in context with the wasteful spending and all of these things, someone has to take control of this. That's what Trump's doing. The IRS conversation, to me, is a great conversation. It's a corrupt system. It's not a good system. It just doesn't work. And by the way, every business in the world would never work like this, would never run a business with all these caveats on how they account for their money. They look at, I sold it for $10, my overhead was $3, and I made $4. I mean, that's basically it. And we can't get to that common sense kind of thing. So I just wanted to talk about that because the spending freeze thing's gotten such negative feedback. I hear it from people I know on Facebook, friends of mine, irresponsible. He stopped all this stuff. And I'm like, what, haven't you ever run a company? Some of these guys I'm talking to have run companies. I mean, what is it? It's a total joke.
Yeah. The other joke of the whole thing I mentioned the other day is, well, I don't know what we can do about it, that they can just go to these left-wing whack judges and freeze all this stuff, and then you have to go fight the courts. It's just crazy. You got one person making decisions for 330 million people. It's just nuts.
Yeah.
All right, Delgado, anything else in the news? I have one more time. I want to just go back to Biden's FAA nominee, if we can, before we wrap up.
Yeah, no problem.
We'll give him another shot with Ted Cruz this time. We'll see how he did with Ted. I think he did much better.
Probably is going to do better.
Real quick, Trump administration rounding up 5,500 criminal migrants in less than a week. That, according to the New York Post, the arrests were the result of scores of coordinated raids around the country, which saw some of the worst and violent offenders clapped in irons after freely roaming the country under the Biden administration. Those busts included dozens of members of the vicious Venezuelan Tren de Aragua, whatever you call it, prison gang, as well as multiple MS-13 gang members, at least 5 career criminals nabbed by DEA, and scores of others wanted for murder, kidnapping, child molestation, and more. So not a bad first week as Tom Homan and the people over at ICE start rounding up the worst of the worst and getting them out of the country.
Yeah. All right, so one more time, I know the media is really upset about President Trump attacking possibly not having the best people and who we're hiring and how dare he.
Yeah.
Here's Biden's FAA nominee. We just played a little bit of it earlier in the hour. And here he is with Ted Cruz. Just a little, I think he did a little better here with Ted Cruz. Here we go.
You ever flown a plane?
Thank you for the question, Senator. No, I have never flown a plane.
A great
So
question.
you weren't a military pilot or a commercial airline pilot?
No, Senator.
Have you ever worked for an airline?
No, Senator.
Have you ever worked as an air traffic controller?
No, Senator.
Have you ever worked for a company that manufactures airplanes?
No, Senator.
Have you ever worked for a company that fixes airplanes?
No, Senator.
How to spell airplane?
FAA administrator is a specialized position. I'm not qualified to be FAA administrator. I have no idea how to fly a plane. No one in their right mind would put me in charge of aviation safety because I don't have that experience. I suspect most of the members of this committee are in a similar position. The American people, when they think about aviation safety, when they think about, I played in this committee, a Southwest Airlines and FedEx plane almost colliding at Austin's airport. They want an FAA administrator who knows why those planes crash and knows how to fix it to keep them safe. And with all respect, Mr. Washington, it gives no comfort to the flying public that their pilot might be a transgendered witch, but doesn't actually know how to prevent the plane from crashing into the ground and killing them. I believe your record is woefully lacking. And in fact, you have zero aviation safety experience.
Yeah.
That's straightforward, though. I mean, it's straightforward. You don't have the experience. Right. Like, I'm not insulting you. You don't have it. As opposed to just insulting people like they're doing now.
Right. You are not what we would call the best qualified, given the standards that we're looking for, which is what President Trump talked about today, you are not the guy for the office.
Did he get in?
So obviously he didn't make it, right?
To be honest with you, I don't know if he got in. I think he did get in.
No.
I don't know. All right, as always, man, that was fast. We salute our military, active and active police, firefighters, first responders, EMTs, everybody on the front lines protecting us. Thanks, guys, on the show. Aaron, Fran, great job. We'll see you tomorrow, Friday night, Pizza Friday, to wrap up the week live from Studio 6B. We'll see you then, everybody. Have a great rest of your night.